The airplane's wheels screeched against the JFK runway, jolting Aarohi awake. For a brief moment, she forgot where she was, until the sight of towering skylines through the small oval window reminded her, New York, the city she had seen only in movies. Her hands trembled with a mix of excitement and fear. Dragging her suitcase across the arrivals hall, she replayed her father's words over the phone before departure. Remember, Aarohi, this is not just your dream. This is our family's future. Don't let us down. His voice, stern yet hopeful, had carved itself into her mind. The cold air outside struck her as the cab drove toward Queens. Buildings loomed taller than she had ever imagined, streets pulsed with noise, and billboards flashed with an energy that almost mocked her exhaustion. The city felt alive, mercilessly alive. Her rented room smelled faintly of mildew, its walls thin enough for her to hear the muffled laughter of her roommates. They were already asleep when she slid her suitcase into the corner. Alone on the creaky bed, she unlocked her phone. Messages from home blinked in, her mother asking if she'd eaten, her younger brother reminding her to send money soon. She typed quick reassurances, though her chest tightened at the weight of their expectations. Days blurred into routine. Classes at the university demanded focus, professors spoke faster than her ears could keep up, and her part-time job at a cafe left her smelling of burnt coffee grounds. The tips barely covered subway rides, and every night she calculated what could be spared to send back home. Independence didn't feel like freedom, it felt like a debt she was always repaying. One evening, while scrolling through her phone, she stumbled upon a flashy ad: find companionship, find support, discreet, secure. The words glowed against the screen, tempting and dangerous. A dating app, different from the ones her friends used. Curiosity tugged harder than reason. She downloaded it. Her profile asked for little name, age, a picture. She hesitated before uploading one from her cousin's wedding, where her smile looked brighter than she remembered feeling. Almost instantly, messages poured in, men promising luxury dinners, designer gifts, easy money. She locked her phone, heart racing. But that night, lying awake in the dimly lit room, her father's voice returned. Your education is our investment. Make it worth it. She thought of the rent due next week, the textbook she couldn't afford, the shoes worn thin from endless city walks. The app, though unsettling, whispered a solution she dared not admit out loud. Morning arrived with grey skies and drizzle. Aarohi tucked the phone into her coat pocket, yet the app's icon burned in her mind. She felt the city pressing against her, its opportunities and dangers indistinguishable. At the cafe later that day, she wiped tables with mechanical precision, but her eyes lingered on customers swiping their phones, laughing into screens, living lives she could barely touch. By the time her shift ended, she knew she would open the app again. The city of second chances had given her one door to choose, and she was about to step through it. The app's interface was simple, almost innocent. A scroll of polished faces, men older than her father, smiling beside yachts, wine glasses, conference stages. Aarohi hesitated, thumb hovering, until one profile stood out: Richard H., 55. Investor, Manhattan. His bio was short: I believe in taking care of those who deserve more from life. Her pulse quickened. Unlike the others, his messages weren't crude or transactional. You look like someone who belongs in this city, he wrote. She almost laughed, wondering how he could tell from a single picture, but she replied anyway. The conversation unfolded like silk. He asked about her studies, her family, her favorite books. He never pushed, never demanded. Instead, he wrote lines that soothed her doubts. I came to this city with nothing too, once. It helps to have someone believe in you. Within days, their chats became a ritual. She would sit in her small room, headphones muffling her roommate's chatter, while Richard described the view from his penthouse overlooking Central Park. He painted New York not as the struggle she endured, but as a paradise waiting to embrace her. When he offered to meet for dinner, she almost said no. Fear of judgment, fear of being caught, fear of what this arrangement really meant. Yet curiosity won. That Friday evening, she slipped into her only black dress and rode the subway into Manhattan. The restaurant glowed with crystal chandeliers and gold-rimmed mirrors. Waiters glided silently across marble floors. Aarohi shifted uncomfortably, clutching her thrift store purse until she spotted him. Richard was taller than she expected, silver hair neatly combed, a tailored suit hugging his broad shoulders. His smile carried the confidence of a man who never heard no. "You must be Aarohi," he said, rising to pull out her chair. His voice was low, smooth, the kind that filled silence without effort. She tried to steady her breathing as he ordered a bottle of wine without looking at the menu. The night passed in a blur of expensive food she couldn't pronounce and questions she wasn't used to answering. "Tell me what you really want from this city," he asked, leaning in. Her throat tightened. "A life where I don't have to worry about rent or disappointing anyone." His hand brushed hers, deliberate and firm. "Then let me help you. You shouldn't struggle when you have so much potential." That night, when she returned to her room, her phone buzzed with a notification. A transfer, enough money to cover rent and her overdue tuition fees. The message read, "Consider this the beginning of something better." Relief washed over her, followed by unease. She told herself it was kindness, not control. She told herself she could stop whenever she wanted. But each gift, each dinner, each promise tightened the invisible strings. Richard's questions grew sharper. Where she went, who she saw, why she hadn't answered sooner. His charm never disappeared, but beneath it lay something colder, possessive. Still, when she glanced at her bank account, at the shoes she finally replaced, at the relief in her mother's voice when she sent money home, she forced herself to believe this was worth it. The glittering trap had closed around her softly, almost tenderly, until she no longer saw it as a trap at all. And in the shadows of her double life, another presence was about to appear, one that would test both Richard's grip and her own fragile will. Aarohi's life split in two. By day she was the diligent student rushing through lectures, coffee-stained notes, and endless assignments. By night she slipped into Richard's world of velvet booths, candlelit restaurants, and silent chauffeurs waiting at curbsides. Her roommates noticed the shift. The girl who once skipped outings to save subway fare now returned with new handbags and shoes. They whispered behind thin walls, laughter edged with suspicion. Aarohi forced herself to smile, pretending the money came from a tutoring job. Lies came easier with practice. Richard's generosity expanded, but so did his reach. His messages pinged at all hours. "Where are you? Who are you with? Answer me." At first she brushed them off as protective. Then she began replying instantly, even during lectures, out of fear of his silence when she didn't. One evening, she sat across from him in a rooftop bar. The city glittered below, yet she felt caged. "You've been distracted lately," Richard said, swirling his drink. His eyes, sharp beneath the soft glow, pinned her in place. "I've just been busy with exams," she muttered. "You don't need to worry about exams, you need to focus on us." His hand closed around hers tighter than necessary. "I'm the one making sure you don't drown in this city." Her smile faltered. "I haven't forgotten." But when she returned to her dorm, her phone buzzed again. This time the message wasn't from him. It was from Samir, a classmate she barely knew until he offered to share notes during a rushed lecture. "Don't forget tomorrow's study group. I'll bring coffee." For the first time in weeks, she laughed out loud. Samir was different. He wasn't polished like Richard, but his kindness was uncalculated. He held doors without boasting, listened without demanding. Their study sessions stretched into late-night talks about music, families, and futures that felt simpler, warmer. Aarohi tried to silence the pull she felt. Richard's shadow loomed over every thought. She hid her laughter when Richard called, turning her face away so Samir wouldn't see. She deleted messages quickly, terrified of both men discovering the other. But shadows always leak through. One afternoon, while walking with Samir across campus, she caught sight of Richard's car idling at the curb. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She muttered an excuse and left Samir standing there, confused. That evening, Richard's voice over the phone was calm, too calm. Who was the boy? No one. she whispered. Don't lie to me. Her fingers trembled. He's just a classmate, nothing more. Richard didn't reply. The silence stretched long enough for her to hear her own breathing. Then finally he said, I've given you everything. Don't make me regret it. The call ended. Sleep eluded her that night. Her mind replayed the look on Samir's face when she left him and the quiet menace in Richard's words. She lay awake staring at the phone, caught between two lives she couldn't reconcile. Days passed in a blur of guilt and fear. Samir noticed her withdrawn gaze, but never pushed. Richard, meanwhile, tightened his grip, demanding proof of where she was, sometimes sending his driver to pick her up unannounced. The city that once felt like a dream now pressed against her chest like a weight she couldn't escape. And yet in the rare hours with Samir, she tasted something fragile, something close to freedom. His laughter reminded her of the girl she used to be, before the app, before the trap. But freedom is dangerous when someone else believes they own you. Richard had seen the crack in her devotion. And cracks, once visible, never go unnoticed. Rain streaked across the library windows, blurring the city into grey shadows. Aarohi sat hunched over her laptop, but the words on the screen refused to settle. Her thoughts were a mess of Richard's messages, Samir's quiet smile, and the gnawing guilt inside her. Samir slid into the chair beside her, balancing two coffees. You look like you haven't slept in days. She forced a small smile. I haven't. He pushed one cup toward her. Then stop pretending. What's going on? His voice was steady, not demanding, just concerned. The gentleness unraveled something in her. For weeks she had lived between lies, fabricated excuses for her roommates, polished replies for Richard, silence for herself. But in Samir's eyes she saw a chance to speak without judgment. Her hands tightened around the cup. If I tell you, you'll hate me. I don't think I could, he said softly. The words slipped before she could stop them. She told him about the app, about Richard, about the dinners and the money that bought her rent, tuition, her family's relief back in India. Her voice cracked as she admitted the truth she never dared to say aloud. I don't know if I chose this or if I was trapped from the beginning. Samir's expression shifted from shock to anger, not at her, but at what had been done to her. Aarohi, this isn't your fault. He's using you. Can't you see that? Tears blurred her vision. If I walk away, everything falls apart. My parents are depending on me. I can't just stop. He leaned closer. Then let me help. We'll find another way. But you have to leave him before it's too late. The words too late echoed inside her. She wanted to believe him, to believe there was a way out. Yet Richard's voice always lurked, promising safety and whispering threats beneath the charm. She nodded weakly, but doubt knotted in her chest. That night, she returned to her dorm and found her phone flooded with Richard's missed calls. Her heart pounded as she dialed back. Where were you? His tone was calm, but beneath it simmered something volatile. At the library, she said, her voice thin. Alone? Yes. A pause, then a slow exhale. Don't lie to me, Aarohi. I know when you're lying. Her breath caught. Did he see her? Did someone tell him? The city suddenly felt smaller, as if every street corner had eyes. The next evening, Richard arrived unannounced at the cafe where she worked. He sat at a table, immaculate in his suit, watching her every move. When their eyes met, his smile was thin, almost carved. After her shift, he walked her outside. You've been distant. I've just been tired. You think I don't notice? You think I don't know when you're hiding something? His hand gripped her wrist, not hard enough to bruise but firm enough to warn. I gave you everything, Aarohi. Don't betray me. She pulled free, forcing a shaky laugh. You're overthinking. But inside, terror clawed at her. His charm had slipped, revealing the steel beneath. Back in her room, she stared at her phone, torn between deleting the app and clinging to the money that kept her afloat. Samir's words replayed in her head. Before it's too late. For the first time, she admitted the truth to herself. She was afraid of Richard. And Richard had already decided if he couldn't own her completely, no one else would. The evening was colder than usual, the kind of New York night where the wind cut through layers of clothing. Aarohi wrapped her scarf tighter as she stepped into Richard's apartment. The skyline stretched beyond the glass windows, dazzling and indifferent. He poured her a glass of wine before she could refuse. "You've been quiet," he said, his back to her. "I'm just tired," she murmured, placing her bag down. "Tired?" He turned, his smile stretched too thin. "Or distracted?" Her pulse quickened. "It's exams, Richard. You're imagining things." But his eyes burned into hers. "I saw you with him, the boy. Do you think I don't know?" Her mouth went dry. "He's just a friend." "Friends don't make you glow like that," he snapped, slamming the glass onto the counter. The sound shattered through the silence. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me." Aarohi's voice shook. "I never asked for any of this. I just wanted a chance." His hand cut through the air, gripping her arm so tightly she winced. "Don't you dare lie to me. You wanted the money, you wanted the life, and now you want to walk away." Tears welled in her eyes. "I want my freedom." The words struck harder than any slap. For a heartbeat he stared at her, chest heaving. Then rage consumed him. The argument blurred into shouts, accusations, the crash of a vase against the floor. She tried to break free, but his strength pinned her. "No one leaves me," Richard hissed, his face inches from hers. "No one." The struggle ended as quickly as it began. A sickening thud. A silence, so sharp it rang in her ears. Aarohi crumpled to the ground, her eyes wide, lips parted, as if she still had something left to say. Richard stood over her, his breath ragged. For a long moment he didn't move. The city lights poured across the floor, indifferent to the lifeless body at his feet. Panic clawed its way through his chest. He dragged her toward the door, whispering curses under his breath. Down the service elevator, through the alley, to where shadows swallowed the street. The East River wasn't far. He staged it carefully. Her bag overturned, wallet missing, jacket torn, a mugging gone wrong. When the police sirens wailed hours later, the city barely stirred. To New York, she was just another victim, claimed by its streets. But Samir noticed when her seat in class stayed empty. Her roommates noticed when her phone rang unanswered. And soon whispers began to spread, just as they had before. Only this time, they carried the weight of something far darker. Richard watched the news the next morning, his face reflected in the screen. The headline scrolled beneath the reporter's voice: "Indian student found dead by East River. Possible. Robbery suspected." He sipped his coffee, steadying his hands, convincing himself he had won. But in truth, the cracks in his perfect facade had only just begun to split wide open. Detective Marissa Clark leaned over the crime board. Photographs pinned in chaotic order: the East River, a blood-stained scarf, the victim's ID card. The official report called it a robbery, but the details refused to fit. "She still had her phone," Marissa muttered. "Muggers don't leave behind something that valuable." Her partner, Detective Rivera, tapped a pen against the photo of Aarohi. "A 20-year-old student, no criminal ties. Something's off." We dig deeper. The first cracks appeared in her digital life. Her phone, unlocked with her fingerprint, revealed a second app folder hidden behind generic names. Inside, the sugar dating app. Conversations flooded the screen, messages from men offering money for companionship. But one name stood out: Richard H. The tone was different, less transactional, more obsessive. Rivera frowned. "Looks like this wasn't just business, he was invested." Marissa nodded. "Find him." Meanwhile, Samir sat hunched in the police station, hands trembling. His voice wavered as he recounted their last conversation. "She told me she wanted out. She was scared of him. I begged her to leave." "Why didn't you report it earlier?" Rivera asked. Samir's eyes dropped. "Because she trusted me. Because she was afraid. And I thought she still had time." The detectives exchanged a glance. Fear, secrecy, obsession. These weren't fragments of a robbery. They were the makings of something darker. Back at Richard's penthouse, the man himself rehearsed calm. His lawyerly confidence shielded him from every question. "Yes, I knew Aarohi," he admitted smoothly when detectives arrived. "A sweet girl. I tried mentoring her, helping with expenses, but she was reckless. I warned her about walking alone at night. Marissa studied him closely. His tailored suit, his steady tone, it was all too perfect. But his eyes betrayed something restless, as if each second of silence pressed against him like a weight. "Do you mind if we take a look around?" she asked. Richard's smile didn't falter. Not at all. The apartment gleamed. Every surface spotless, every corner curated. Yet beneath the polished veneer, faint scratches marred the wooden floor near the kitchen. Marissa crouched, fingertips grazing the grooves. What happened here? Richard's jaw tightened. Dropped a chair. Renovations. You know how it is. Still, fragments began to piece together. Financial transfers from Richard's account to Aarohi's. Surveillance footage of his car, parked near the cafe. Security logs showing his service elevator, used at odd hours. Each thread pulled tighter around him. Samir's testimony weighed heavier with every discovery. His words rang in Marissa's head. She said she was afraid of him. Days passed, the case building, like a storm. Richard tried to hold control, but cracks bled through. A neighbor reported hearing shouting that night. A bartender remembered Aarohi's strange smile at the rooftop bar. Bit by bit, the illusion of generosity shattered, revealing possession, obsession, and violence. When Marissa finally held the warrant, Richard sat in his living room, sipping wine as though nothing could touch him. "Richard Harris," she said, voice sharp, "you're under arrest for the murder of Aarohi Sharma." His glass didn't reach his lips. For a fleeting second, his composure collapsed. Rage flickered through his eyes before the mask returned. "This is a mistake," he said evenly, though his wrists stiffened as the cuffs closed. But the fragments had formed the picture. Aarohi's truth, silenced in life, now spoke through evidence, witnesses and whispers she could no longer hide. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent as ever. Yet for those who knew her, silence carried her name like an unfinished sentence. And soon her family would arrive, grief-stricken strangers in a city that had promised their daughter a future, only to deliver her to the shadows. The courtroom fell silent as the jury's verdict rang. Guilty. Richard Harris's empire collapsed in seconds, his polished mask shattered. Aarohi's parents clung to each other, grief etched deeper than any justice could heal. Samir bowed his head, guilt heavy, knowing he'd carry her memory forever. Outside, cameras flashed, reducing her life to headlines. But at a campus vigil, candles glowed in defiance. Detective Clark watched quietly, knowing the city would forget. But she would not. Justice had been served, yet hollow, because nothing could restore the voice of a young woman silenced by love, betrayal, and possession.